Good evening. I'm Mayor Regina Wallace-Jones. Welcome to the 2020 State of City Address. Today, I stand before this great city humbled. I'm humbled to serve during this unique moment in history when we've all experienced a pandemic, but in uniquely different ways. Although we see some of our neighbors and portions of our community struggle, we must remember that it's not the struggle that defines us, but rather how we choose to respond. Today, we are united in overcoming the obstacles that the coronavirus has presented us. In that same spirit of overcoming, we join you via Zoom as we adhere to best practices in order to connect you with all that we've done while remaining physically distant and safe. Usually, the mayor is accompanied by the city, and I'm hoping next year's mayor can be surrounded by council, staff, and the community. I want to start by congratulating Vice Mayor Carlos Romero and Councilmember Lisa Gaucher for their re-election to the City Council. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Councilmember Ruben Abrica for his enduring presence on this council. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Councilmember Larry Moody. Your ongoing investment in this great city has been profound and apparent. It has been an honor to be able to serve alongside with you. And while this year may serve as a farewell as a council member, I know that our paths will cross again and that your work will surely continue. The city of East Palo Alto has always been a tight-knit community. In no other time has it been more apparent than now. This year, we have been united under one major goal, which is to endure the grueling and real obstacles this pandemic has put in front of us. Whether these obstacles affect our finances, our mental health, or our lives in general, one thing is apparent: if we work together, we'll become stronger. I'd like to thank our city manager, Jaime Fontes, and the entire city staff for all of their hard work to help this community get through this year. And finally, I want to thank our residents for your enduring engagement. As we endeavor to make city government even more accessible, I continue to be delighted by the many ways that you access your council members and city staff to share your hopes, your fears, your concerns, and your expectations. We are very lucky to have such engaged residents in the city of East Palo Alto. And now, I will share some administrative highlights to give you a better sense of where we stand as a city. In response to the devastating impacts of COVID-19, back in March, we declared that free testing would be offered to our residents. Since April, the City of East Palo Alto, in partnership with several local organizations, has provided drive-through COVID-19 testing to more than 17,000 city and county residents. Just recently, more than 1,000 individuals were tested for coronavirus in East Palo Alto in one day. This major logistical accomplishment could never have been achieved without a dedicated citywide team. So special thanks to Marie McKenzie, Michelle Dyer, and all city staff who have been on the front lines since testing started. Our community has had the great fortune of being largely asymptomatic, but it is still important to follow social distancing practices. With the recent development of new vaccines, there is hope that we will overcome the virus. However, let's not lose sight of our goal. I would also like to commend the city's rent stabilization program as its staff works hard to help tenants. The city conducted Measure O outreach and education partnerships. We contacted and contracted with Nuestra Casa, Youth United for Community Action, or YUCA, Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto, or CLESPA, for anti-displacement services. We were looking for organizations to help us provide legal services for residents facing eviction and other related hardships that may lead to displacement. We were also looking for these organizations to help provide tenant education and advocacy services to renters. A key component of this partnership is to educate residents about activities happening in the community and to empower them to use their voices to raise concerns regarding activities and policies that may lead to further anti-displacement. We also did a lot of work on rental assistance funding. To effectuate the Council's order regarding COVID-19 related to homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing emergency fund, the city entered into a one-year contract with the Samaritan House to administer the city's rental assistance fund in May of 2020. In addition, I was fortunate to help with rental assistance as I secured a $1 million donation to the Samaritan House from a friend and fellow tech leader to assist East Palo Alto's tenants who were and are unable to pay the rent due to the pandemic. In March, and to protect residents who have been financially impacted by the pandemic from being displaced, the Council approved a moratorium on residential evictions for non-payment of rent and no-fault evictions. At this time, a new state eviction moratorium, Assembly Bill 3088, has been adopted and is in effect until January 31st of 2021. The Council also approved a moratorium on commercial evictions for non-payment of rent, which was in place until May 31st of 2020. Commercial tenants had to show that their income had been reduced due to COVID-19 and be a business with annual gross receipts not more than $2.5 million for the 2019 calendar year. We were fortunate to recruit Amy Chen as the Director for the Community and Economic Development Department. Amy, along with her department, which includes the Building Code Enforcement and Housing divisions, have worked hard. And let me cover some of their projects. For 965 Weeks Street, which is a residential development of 136 units on 2.52 acres of land, the proposed development is an affordable housing development with office spaces for property management and resident services staff, as well as community amenity spaces, including a community room with kitchen, outdoor play areas, and space for after-school programs. The proposal includes 136 rental homes that will serve a broad range of housing needs in the community, with affordability levels between 30% and 60% of the average median income, and with a range of units from studios to 4-bedroom units. The project was entitled this past year. On October 20th of 2020, the City Council approved a first reading for the update to the Accessory Dwelling Units Ordinance, more commonly referred to as the ADU Ordinance, which is intended to bring the city's municipal code into compliance with the state legislative changes. The update relaxed development standards and allows ADUs that are consistent with the code to be processed through the building permit process. The process was kicked off with a community meeting on August 18, 2020, and we're now working to engage the community in this important effort. The City Council approved the city's first mixed-use project at the corner of University and Runnymede Street. This is one of my personal favorites. This project is a 33-unit mixed-use project with 2,500 square feet of retail in the ground floor. Clarham University Corner sets a benchmark for incoming development projects for the city. The project was designed to be in full compliance with the development code, with the general plan policies, with the housing ordinances, and with sustainability requirements. The City Council recently adopted an inclusionary housing ordinance on November 19, 2020. Inclusionary housing zoning and policies allow for new construction to include affordable units for people with low and moderate incomes. The guidelines will be finalized and posted on the city's website by the end of the year. And finally, Senate Bill 743, cleared the way for the State Office of Planning and Research to develop a new California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, guidelines, to replace a level of service as the evaluation measure for transportation impacts under CEQA with another measure called Vehicle Miles Traveled, or VMT. VMT measures the number of vehicle trips and trip durations and is a direct measurement of greenhouse gas emissions. A reduction in VMT promotes the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and reduces reliance on individual vehicles. This policy was adopted by the City of East Palo Alto in July of 2020. I want to take time to thank Brenda Olwen, the city's finance director. Brenda and her staff keep the city's business running as they make sure to pay staff, contractors, and to maintain the fiscal disposition of the city. Some of the key accomplishments of this team include the selection of new business software for the city, the implementation of a COVID-adjusted forecast and budget, completion of a risk-based general fund study, and update to the master fee schedule for city services. The Human Resources Division, which is led by Irene Camarena and supported by Irma Martinez, over the past year, they've helped staff maintain compliance with COVID-19 best practices. Along with that, they have several accomplishments from this past year. Together, we completed labor negotiations with all bargaining units. We implemented compensation and classification studies, including job descriptions for all classifications, and we completed cost of living and equity adjustments for unrepresented, confidential, and restricted classifications. Kamal Falaha, the Public Works Director, and his staff have been very active this past year. And some of their accomplishments include construction on the Bay Road, Phase 2 and 3, construction on the 2020 annual street resurfacing, which we can see all around us in the city. They've also completed construction on the O'Brien San Francisco Public Utilities Commission turnout, and they completed the mobility study. Our police department, under the direction of Chief Al Perdini, has continued to do a wonderful job working with this community. In addition to the everyday community policing duties, the police department had a backpack giveaway. It also continued clean zone activities in the community, which enlists members of EPA nonprofits and others to work on community sweep and graffiti paint out projects. The police department holiday toy giveaway for children in the community at City Hall was also a huge success last year, and we'll have another one this year, but it will look different in order to observe best practices and to maintain physical distancing. And finally, I want to thank our city manager, Jaime Fontes, and the assistant city manager, Patrick Heisinger, both providing COVID-19 response leadership while continuing to carry a full workload of city business. Over the last year, the city rolled out a new website, a new agenda management system, a virtual summer program, student internships, Wi-Fi at 2 city parks, and Wi-Fi in more portions of the city to support families with overcoming COVID connectivity issues. We have more work to do, but we're really proud of what we've accomplished to date. Tonight, I have just completed the tree lighting, welcoming our season of gratitude and thanks for the blessings and trials of the year. As we look to a new year, I want our community to know that your city council and staff are here to help, support, guide, and respond. Together, we can persevere. I want to thank you all for listening, and please remember to follow us on our new website, which is www.cityofepa.org, or on Twitter or on Facebook, so that you can stay up to date with all of the city's business and activities. Thank you so much, and happy holidays.